Yes, good morning. So let's begin. Right, good morning, and we deeply apologize for starting today's training quite late. We had to take care of some technical issues, so we will just start immediately. All right, so this morning we shall begin in earnest with the writing test. We're going to start with the writing test, and before we get into the writing test, I would like to take us through the different aspects of the IELTS module. Now, the IELTS test is conducted under 4 areas. So we have the listening test, we have the reading test, we have the writing, and then lastly we have the reading. So the listening test lasts for 40 minutes. The reading test lasts for 60 minutes. And then the writing also lasts for 60 minutes, while the speaking test lasts for just 15 minutes maximum. It could be 10 minutes anyway. So it depends on the situation on ground or the day of your speaking test. Now let's begin. The writing test is a foundational aspect of the IELTS test. It is foundational because it actually has a very important topic that you come across in the listening, reading, writing, and the speaking. So we usually begin with the writing test so we can build the foundation with which you would be able to handle the other areas of the IELTS test. So to begin with the writing test, I would like us to understand that the writing test, which lasts for 60 minutes, usually is divided into 2 parts called task 1 and task 2. So this task 1 usually lasts for 20 minutes. That's the allotted time for it. While task 2 often lasts for 40 minutes. That's the time allotted to this particular task. Now your task 1, you are meant to have a minimum of 150 words. So please do not write less than 150. But you can write 150 above. Alright? Your task 2, you are meant to write a minimum of 250 words. Now, this is your task 1. The total rate you get from it, if you are so perfect, would be 33.31%. of the total mark you get from the writing test. Whereas task 2, you're going to get 66.69% of the total mark you get from your writing test. So you are expected to pay higher or greater attention to the task 2. This is where the chunk of the mark comes from. Now let's begin. Because it is more important, because there is greater mark allotted to task 2, and most importantly, because there is a topic in task 2 that you need to take care of task 1 in writing, to take care of the listening, the reading, and the speaking test, we shall begin this morning with task 2. So the task 2 is actually called essay. Okay, so we shall begin. Now let's talk about essay writing. The essay writing in IELTS is that aspect of the test that evaluates your creativity. IELTS tests you with a question that has a concern or a challenge or a problem or a situation, and then it would ask you about your concern or your view or your reservations, or it will just throw it at you and expect you to decide or determine reasons people might be doing that, and perhaps the benefits or advantages they get from such. Or it might ask you or throw a question that has two sides, two opposite sides, arguments sort of, and then you'll be required to discuss the two sides. Now, when discussing these two sides, IELTS is seeking or looking to see how you're going to be judgmental, how you're going to support both sides without taking side, actually. So you are required to discuss the two issues where you get to support each of the two factions with very strong points. And then you explain that point or those points of yours with fact-like assertions, right? Now, you also need to drop maybe an instance that will definitely buttress that particular point of yours, drive it home a lot more. And then, in your essay writing, you are also tested on your spelling skills, because every word you write, the correctness of the words in terms of spellings matter a whole lot, right? So you're meant to spell every word correctly. Also, IELTS is looking to see the structure of your essay. So you're meant to structure your essay in the standard template that is obtainable in IELTS exam. This simply means you're supposed to have 4 paragraphs, to discuss that essay of yours. More so, IELTS is looking at your ability to structure your sentences in very correct ways, so you don't just keep blowing grammar and end up having wrong sentences. So please note that these are some of the things IELTS will be looking at when you are treating your essay. Now let's go further. In IELTS essay writing, which is task 2, remember I said you should write a minimum of 250. So you don't write below 250, you must write above 250 or up to 250. But don't write below. If you write less than 250, you're going to be losing mark. Alright? Now let's proceed. In essay writing, you are required to express yourself, express your points, express your opinions using what we call advanced expressions, advanced English, advanced dictions. Now, you are writing IELTS because it is considered to be an English language proficiency test. So, since you want to convince them that you are proficient in your English, one of the major things you must show to prove that you are proficient in your English is you using advanced English rather than the normal or regular words anyone can use. People who use the regular ones don't care about convincing an IELTS that they are proficient. But you who have come to convince and prove your proficiency, you are required to show off what we call advanced expressions. Now, these advanced expressions, for you to achieve it easily, you are meant to show off a few things. The first is the use of linking words. We also have what we call sequencers. And then lastly, we have what we call idiomatic expressions. Now, these are keys that will help you to achieve advanced expressions. So let's look at each of these one after another. The first, which is the linking words. What are these linking words? What are they used for? What do you need them for to achieve the advanced expression? The linking words are words that help you to join or connect or link two or more independent sentences or ideas together to become one. One sentence, specifically. Linking words are those words that can be used to join or connect two or more independent ideas or sentences together to become one sentence. Okay, now if you have gotten that, can we talk about examples of linking words? What are some of the examples of linking words? Examples of linking words would be whereas, however, meanwhile, on the other hand, on one hand, while, more so. These are some of the examples of linking words. There are so many others, but those other ones that you have in your mind, we don't use them because they may be casual words. Someone might say, what about the word but and? Yes, they are linking words, but they are common. IELTS says, show us advanced expressions. So whatever words you are choosing to use has to be advanced. Okay? So I'm going to run through those examples I gave about linking words. They include however, whereas, more so, on the other hand, on one hand, while, meanwhile. Then you can also have what we call contrarily. Contrarily. These are some of the advanced examples of linking words. Please, do we understand? Mrs. Scott, are you there? Daisy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, so let's proceed. Let's move on to the second one. Here we have sequencers. What are sequencers? Now, sequencers are words or phrases that are used to either begin a paragraph or introduce a new idea in a paragraph. Sequencers are words or phrases that can be used to either begin a paragraph or introduce an additional idea in a paragraph. Let's say, for instance, you are asked to discuss why people travel abroad to study, or why people prefer to seek jobs overseas. Then you have a list of points you like to discuss. And then to begin the first point, you are saying, first and foremost, people enjoy, or people love to venture into job hunting abroad for a number of reasons, which would include blah 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 and blah 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 blah. Furthermore, the same paragraph, you're bringing in another idea. Furthermore, a lot of people also go into job hunting abroad for blah 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 blah. Right? So, sequencers are words or phrases that are used to either begin a paragraph or introduce an additional point in a paragraph. So let's look at some of the examples of sequencers. Some examples of sequencers would be, first, we are saying first and foremost. First and foremost. Please do not say firstly. It is a sequencer, quite all right, but it is common. IELTS says give us something more advanced. Right? So, first and foremost, that's an example. Then furthermore, that's another example. Right. Now let's proceed. Another example would be additionally. I started with first and foremost, then we have furthermore, then now we have additionally. Now you also have consequently. Consequently is another example of sequencer. Consequently. We also have another example of sequencer, which would be subsequently. 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 We also have nonetheless. 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 We have nevertheless. Nevertheless. That's another example of sequencer. We also have contrarily. Contrarily can also be a sequencer while acting as a linking word. It can also be a sequencer. Contrarily. We have another sequencer such as summarily. 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 We also have conclusively. Conclusively. And we can also have what we call in light of the above. In light of the above. In light of the above. This is another example of sequencer. Alright, I trust we have taken this, right? Now let's go to the last part. Idiomatic expressions. Idiomatic expressions, some persons would say they are informal expressions, you shouldn't use them. But I call idiomatic expressions to be expressions you make that show you have in-depth understanding of English. It's not for everyone. It takes someone who is quite exposed to actually interpret your idiomatic expression and make meaning out of what you have said. So when you are to use them, use the formal idiomatic expressions. For instance, make hay while the sun shines. Make hay while the sun shines is an idiomatic expression. So you're free to make use of this guy. Okay? You can also talk about birds of a feather flock together. birds of a feather flock together. It's another idiomatic expression. So, make use of some of these idioms to when you're treating your essay. They would prove that you have in-depth knowledge and great command of the English. Right? Now let's proceed. Alright, so right here on the board we have yardsticks used to evaluate essay writing. The IELTS examiners understand that humans analyze issues differently. If we are maybe 100 IELTS test takers writing the exam in a hall, and we are all served or given the same question to write on, I can confidently tell you that 80% or over 80% of the 100 people writing the IELTS test would treat that same question in diverse ways. And while treating the question in diverse ways, they make use of different words, choice of words, different sentence structures to express the same issue, right? It is different from you taking the listening test. The listening test is so fixed that if we are 100 test takers in the hall taking the listening test, when the audio is playing and we all listen attentively, it means we shall hear the same answer. Everyone is going to write the same answer if we listen attentively. So my number one, if I choose the correct answer and you choose the correct answer, the number one would be the same. Same thing happens numbers 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 40. So the answers are fixed. When you go to the reading test, when we are 100 in the test room taking the reading test and we are given the same question, if I read carefully and select the correct answer, and the person over here reads carefully and select the correct answers, it means our answers will all be the same. This means listening and reading test answers are fixed. But in writing tests, different test takers would analyze and treat the same question in diverse and different ways. So because of these discrepancies, IELTS now has different yardsticks to measure and evaluate what you have written. So let's look at the yardsticks used to evaluate your essay. Okay, so let's look at the 4 yardsticks with which IELTS examiners evaluate what you have written. So the first thing right there on the board is what we call task achievement. Now, what's the task achievement all about? In exams, you would notice that a question will be asked, and maybe the question requires you to give like 3 or 4 points for a particular issue. So task achievement would evaluate you based on your ability to give the 4 points. So if you are, instead of giving 4 points, if you end up giving 3 points, you're going to lose some mark for task achievement because you didn't accomplish the task. If it says, give the benefits of those habits and reasons why people do it. So you're meant to give the reasons, you're also meant to give the benefits. But if you are so engrossed giving reasons people do it and you couldn't meet up with time to give the benefits, of course you're going to lose mark for task achievement. Right? So task achievement is your ability to completely respond to the question or questions asked. Task achievement, your ability to completely respond to the questions asked. Right? So when you are treating an essay, ensure you treat all the areas that you are required to treat. Let's go to the next one. Here we have task cohesion and coherence. Task cohesion and coherence is simply looking at your ability to understand the questions and be very concise, be very precise and direct to respond to the question. Of course, you should bring in things that will make your points very straight to the point kind of. Right? So be very precise and concise when you are treating your essay. That will help you to show understanding of the question because you have proven that using your points. Now, to achieve this, you are free to digress, but do not deviate. Do not deviate, but you can digress. Right? Now, you need to understand the difference. Let's get to know the difference. Please, if you know the difference between digression and deviation, can you share with us? Those on the YouTube platform, please, I would appeal to you, kindly just click on the like button of this video. And if you have any question, please do well to drop your questions. I will personally respond to them. But kindly just drop a like, hit the like button, and we continue. Digression. Daisy, please let us hear from you what digression is all about.
Digression is by kind of moving away from the focal point or the central point, like you're digressing and adding something else. You're digressing from the actual point, basically.
Okay, but are you totally moving away?
No.
So in digression,
pulling a point, trying to add something to what's already on ground. Trying to add a point, you digress from the main point, but to buttress that point by adding something, like giving it more enhancement, sort of.
Thank you so much. On the YouTube, I would also like us to participate in the class. Drop what you feel digression is all about. Right? You can just drop that note on the comment section. So, like Daisy online actually said, digression is the practice of bringing idea that is absolutely in line with what you are discussing, but not exactly saying the main point the main issue. What do I mean? I want to talk about maybe presidents who have achieved, or a particular president who has achieved a great feat or a great mile, and then I begin by citing Mr. I begin by saying that Mr. Former President Nelson Mandela was a great achiever who helped his country to gain absolute independence, right? So, and I want to now digress. I said also the likes of presidents, so I'm supposed to talk about Nelson Mandela because of the great things he achieved. But to cite someone who has also done something in line with Nelson Mandela, that is digression. But when I cite the person, I ensure to return back to Nelson Mandela to continue talking about him. That is digression. So you are slightly moving or bringing in something additional to what you are actually discussing, but you are not going out of the point of discourse. That is digression. Now, it is okay to digress when you are trying to prove your task cohesion and coherence. It is perfect, it is good, it is nice to digress, but please do not deviate. Deviation means, or let me ask, those on the YouTube, please remember to click on the like button, and you can share this to friends to join the class. It's free. Now let me see what you have on deviation. I would like to see your notes or your explanation on deviation. Daisy, you also kindly explain what you think about deviation. What does it mean? Deviation. Could you explain what deviation means?
It's like when there's a focal point that, or a topic or something you're talking about, and then you deviate completely from it, and you start discussing something else or pulling out other points that might not necessarily be related to what you're talking about.
All right, perfect. That's correct. So deviation is simply about you moving out of context, right? You're moving out of the issue of discourse and talking about something that does not relate to what is being talked about. So that is total deviation. Please avoid it. Avoid deviation. But digression is okay, right? So your task cohesion and coherence, you are to show your understanding of the issue or question, and then you prove that by sticking to that question and bringing in your points to establish your in-depth understanding. Let's proceed to lexical resources. Lexical resources simply means vocabularies. So IELTS is pretty much interested in how much vocabularies you have. I also want to see you show off a great number of vocabularies in your essay. And the vocabularies you're talking about should not be high-sounding vocabularies that may be ambiguous, right? So you need to bring vocabularies that are very precise to the context you want to express or communicate in your essay writing. Make sure you don't go for ambiguous words. When you go for ambiguous words, you may stand the chance of losing the meaning, because examiner could simply use other meanings of that particular word to interpret what you have written. And by so doing, it means there is no sense in whatever idea you are trying to portray, right? So use direct and very precise, advanced vocabularies. Okay? So you need to build your vocabularies And when you're building vocabularies, you want to do two things. First, you want to learn how to apply that vocabulary you've learned or gotten, how to apply it in the written English. And also understand how it's been applied in the spoken English, because they are two different things. Is this okay? So please, build your vocabularies. That would help you to be sure of your essay and whatever information you're trying to communicate. Lastly, we're going to talk about grammatical range and accuracies. In grammatical range, we are looking at the type of sentences you construct in your essay. What type of sentences do you construct? IELTS does not want you to give a lot of simple sentences. No. IELTS prefers more of advanced sentences. And these advanced sentences would include you writing or making compound and complex sentences. These are things IELTS expects from you. So please, learn to build more of compound and complex sentences when you're writing your essay. So how do you build compound and complex sentences? You want to use linking words. Linking words. Linking words will help you to achieve compound and complex sentences with ease, without stress. Right? So please, work on that. Grammatical range. And when you're also giving your compound and complex sentences, ensure that you take note of the tenses. When you are talking about something that has happened in the past, please ensure to make use of past tenses. And when you're making use of past tenses, ensure to also align with the subject. If the subject happens to be in plural, or the object happens to be in plural, please make sure that your tenses are also aligning with the plural formation. Right? So that's the way to go. Now let's look at accuracy. This simply means you are expressing your sentence in the right tense or tenses. You are aligning with the subject, and your sentences are very clear and also has the quality of what we call ease of understanding. Ease of understanding. So when you make a sentence, let it be very clear in a way that when the examiner is marking your script, examiner does not need you to explain what you actually mean or what you meant in that sentence. So examiner should be able to interpret your sentence from the same perspective you wrote it, right? So by that, you are establishing ease of understanding, and that will fetch you the mark for grammatical range and accuracy. Please, is this clear to us? Do we have any question? All right, so let's proceed. So let's talk about the formula for writing an essay. Let's look at the formula for writing an essay. Okay, so right here on the board we have the formula for writing an essay. Now this formula has its basis on P1 to P4. So each of these P's simply represents paragraph. Now by implication, how many paragraphs should you have? Based on that formula, how many paragraphs do you think we should have? Mrs. Cody, how many paragraphs do you think we should have based on the formula we have on the board?
4.
4 paragraphs. All right, those on the YouTube channel, please, how many paragraphs do you think this formula is advising you to have when you're writing your essay? You're meant to have 4 paragraphs. That's why we have P1, P2, P3, and P4. Right? So, now your essay should not have less than 4 paragraphs. You shouldn't have below 4 paragraphs. And it shouldn't have beyond. It shouldn't be more than 4 paragraphs. So, 4 paragraphs is standard in IELTS essay writing. Now, this formula, remember, when I started this morning, I told us that your essay is supposed to have a minimum of how many words? Minimum of how many words should you have? Those on the YouTube channel, let's see you write. I'd like to see you being I would like to see you participate in this class. So I want to see you do a lot of writing via the comment section. Now, I told us in the beginning that this essay writing, there is a minimum number of words. How many words are you required to have? How many words are we required to have? We're meant to have a minimum of 250 words. A minimum of 250. Right? Now, that means you must write up to 250 words. You should write up to 250 words. Don't write less than 250. Now, for you to meet that benchmark, for you to get up to that minimum, this formula will give you the guarantee. If you will be able to understand what I will explain and also follow the formula, you are sure to write up to the 250 words. Okay? Now, let's look at the formula. Each of the paragraphs have got its own constituents, components, features, characteristics, things that should be in each. So, let's begin with the first paragraph. The first paragraph here, you are meant to have 3 major things. You are meant to have 3 major features in your first paragraph, and that would be, you are meant to have your paraphrase, you are meant to have your thesis or background statements, and you are meant to have your stance. These are the 3 things you are supposed to have in your first paragraph. 3 things you are meant to have in your first paragraph. The first thing is the paraphrase, second is the thesis or background statement, and lastly is the stance. Some IELTS experts will call paragraph 1 introductory paragraph. That is where you show the introduction of your essay. That's very correct. So these are the 3 things that would introduce your essay to the examiner. Now, by paraphrase, what does it mean? By paraphrase, it simply means you are to copy the question that is on your question paper onto your answer sheet. But you don't copy that question word for word. Don't copy it verbatim. No. You are meant to rephrase the question in a way that it will still mean the same exact thing that's in the question paper. So you are not expected to bring in things that are not ideas. Don't bring in ideas that are not in the original question. Don't omit important information that you have in the original question when you are copying onto your answer sheet. No. So you are meant to extract or copy the same thing as on the question paper, but using substitute words or phrases that will still mean the same thing. So that's why the first thing you are going to have as the beginning of your paragraph 1, the first thing you would have is to copy the question in a paraphrased template. Now, after the paraphrase, you are meant to determine what you would like to do in the essay. You are meant to determine and establish what you will be doing in the essay. So how do you determine and establish this? You are meant to decide what path, the path you would like to take in the essay. If the essay says discuss both sides and give your opinion, that means you must establish that your essay will be discussing the two issues. And also, you have to give your opinion crystal clear, well detailed. Establish your opinion. Don't say, my essay will be looking at the two issues raised above, and as well, I'll be giving my opinion. No. When you establish that your essay will be treating the two issues above. However, in my opinion, I strongly believe that you write your opinion clearly. Right? So that's what your thesis background statement will indicate. Your thesis background statement will establish what you will be doing in the essay according to the question. It's the question that determines what you do. So if the question gives you a hint of what to do. So the question will ask you to discuss the two sides. So your thesis or background statement will clearly establish that this essay will be discussing the issues raised. If the question says, do you agree or disagree? You would need to determine which of the sides you have better points for. So if you have determined the path you have better points for, you now establish clearly that this essay will be writing to absolutely agree or totally disagree, depending on what you have the points for. Right? So after doing that, it might also ask you to what extent do you agree or disagree with the point? So when that happens, it is left to you to decide on what you want to do. You should determine what path you would like to take, whether you want to agree or disagree. Now, if it says to what extent, it means to what extent. It means to what level, right? So, in a scale of 1 to 10, it's asking you to what extent do you agree or disagree. So, it is left to you to think out loud and decide whether you should agree absolutely. That means you totally agree. Or you want to agree to an extent. That means you're going to have a point to agree and a point to oppose it, to disagree, because you say to an extent. So when you say to an extent, it means you have something contrary to that issue raised. I hope this is clear to us. But if you want to agree absolutely, that means you are going to raise two different points to agree. If you want to disagree absolutely, you are raising two different points to disagree. If you want to agree to an extent, that means you are raising only one point to agree and then another point to disagree. Please, I hope you're understanding this. If you're on YouTube, please help me click on the like button. You can also share this link to your friends and colleagues who want to undergo IELTS training for free. They will just join us on the YouTube channel there. Now let's proceed. Now a question can also say, why do they do so and what are the effects? Why do they do so and what are the effects or what are the advantages? So your thesis or background statements will clearly say that in this essay, I will be writing to clearly illustrate or highlight reasons people engage in social and so habits, and also establish or list the benefits or advantages they derive from such. So your thesis background statement is strictly dependent on the question. It is whatever the question asks or requests that will determine your thesis or background statement. Remember, you must always state your background statement. You must always establish your background statement. You must say it clearly. You must establish it clearly that my essay will be aimed at, say whatever thing you're going to do that is in line with the question. Then your stance is now, could be your opinion. If the question says, give your opinion, that means your stance would be your opinion. If the question says, how can this be resolved? The question is seeking your view or suggestion. So give your suggestion or your view. If the question says, what are the advantages? It means it's seeking your advantages, your opinion on the advantages. Now, any question? Mrs. Scott, did you have a question? Daisy, do you have a question?
No question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's proceed. Now let's go to paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. Now once you have copied your question on the question paper, not verbatim, but in a paraphrased way, you apply your full stop at the end of that question that you have copied onto your answer sheet as the beginning of your first paragraph. Then full stop comes in after copying the question. Then once you have done that, you need to now plan your essay, decide on what you're going to do according to the question. Once you have decided on that, go for the path that you are 101% sure and confident of the points. Right? Now, do not decide on a path that you like to take because your religious preacher has admonished you that you shouldn't do this, that is ungodly. IELTS is not concerned about any of that. Okay? IELTS is only concerned about how you are able to buttress, how you are able to establish your point, buttress your point, and cite example to establish that point. You are just like a lawyer in a court of law who has gone to, defend a client. Whether the client is right or wrong, you are meant to raise points to actually support that your client. So that is who you are in IELTS. It's like a debate. So whatever path you want to take, make sure you have the points that will clearly establish your path. That is what matters in IELTS. So your religious belief does not matter. Your traditional and cultural beliefs do not matter. Whatever thing that you are thinking or that is practiced in your country does not matter to IELTS. It is how you are able to establish and support your points. So please, whatever path you want to take, ensure that you are taking it because you are 101% sure that those points will make sense and you have the right ideas or right example you want to use to support each point, right? So when you have decided on the path you like to take, then you plan it on your question paper. On your question paper, below the question, there's going to be enough space. So use your pencil to do a lot of rough work. Draft out your points. If you do not draft out your points, you're going to get stuck when the exam begins because you are definitely going to be in an exam condition. So at that point, the brain is going to be so worked up because you are going to be thinking of what to do, what part to take, what point to use, what words to use to explain them, how to construct a sentence, and all that. But if you are able to now think of the points and you plan them on your question paper as rough work, it will help you to be very direct when you begin to write. Okay? So always plan your essay and bring out the points you would like to use to support the path you are taking. And then after that, if it requires your opinion, also draft out your opinion on the question paper as rough work. So once you have done this planning, then go back to your answer sheet where you had paraphrased. So continue on the same line. On the same line after the full stop of the question you have copied and paraphrased, right? On that same line where your full stop is, continue there to establish what you want to do. So that is when you continue by saying, this essay will be aimed at, maybe if it says discuss both sides, you're saying this essay will be aimed at, if it says, you're saying in this essay I will be writing to totally agree with the issue above. So whatever it is, you write it there. And then that is your thesis or background statement. But please note, your thesis background statement should not end with a full stop. Right? You can end it with a semicolon. So this is how a semicolon is. This is a semicolon. Or you call it semicolon. But we call it semicolon. So your thesis background statement should end with a semicolon. So after the semicolon, you then establish your opinion. Whatever you might have drafted down on your question paper as rough work to be your opinion, please, you are then meant to bring it in. And after that, that is the end of your. Let's proceed. Your paragraph 2. By carefully and meticulously doing your paragraph 1, you have solved your essay. You have solved the whole essay by 50%. Whenever you are able to do your paragraph 1 completely, that is, paraphrasing the question, planning your essay or your question paper as rough work, drafting out the points, drafting out the opinion, and then going back to your answer sheet to establish your thesis, background statement, and giving your opinion. When you have done this, you have solved your essay by 50% already. The remaining 50% will just be for you to begin to write. That's all. Now, let's see. So, this 50% solution that you've attained when you have solved your paragraph 1 has done the remaining parts halfway. Your paragraph 2, what do? This TS means topic sentence. TS means topic sentence. So what's your topic sentence? Your topic sentence would be the first point you drafted out on your question paper as rough work. The first point you drafted out when you are planning your essay. The first point drafted out on your question paper as rough work is your topic sentence. So you are meant to take that topic, pull it from your rough work, from the question paper, write it as the beginning of your paragraph 2 on your answer sheet. That would constitute the topic sentence and beginning of your second paragraph. So when you write a topic sentence, you can either apply full stop or you apply a colon. You can either apply your full stop or you apply colon. Right?
Can you explain that again?
Which topic sentence?
Yes, please.
The topic sentence is one of the points that you drafted out when you were planning your essay. You know, I said that the first thing you have to do is to copy the question onto your answer sheet in a paraphrased way. Did you understand that part?
Yes.
Now, after copying the question in a paraphrased way, you apply your full stop. Now, once you apply your full stop, you're meant to go back to the original question on your question paper and read that question over and over again, like twice or 3 times. Then ask yourself the path that is more preferable to you, or ask yourself, what should I do? What must I do? What can I do? What should I do? So once you have decided on what to do in the essay, that means you have taken a path that you are sure of the points to use. So once you have taken that path, on the question paper, draft out the points, write them out on the question paper as rough work. Now, those points you are writing out will constitute the topic sentences you are bringing down to your paragraph 2 and 3. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Now, so once you are done with your paragraph 1, copying the question, saying what you are going to do, and attaching your opinion, your paragraph 2 now becomes easier for you. And this would happen by you going to pick one of those points you have written down on your question paper as rough work, and you use it to begin your second paragraph. That would constitute the topic sentence. Is this clear now?
Yes, yes.
Alright, so after writing your topic sentence on your answer paper at the beginning of your paragraph 2, you now begin to explain in detail. Explain in details what you mean by that topic sentence. So you want to talk about bringing different information. And when you're explaining in detail, do not base your writing solely on spellings. Don't do only spellings all through. No. Ensure to bring in figures. That's writing numbers, not in words, but in figures. So think of dates. The date something happened, or date something was recorded, date something was founded, the date something will happen. So bring that date, write it in figures. Then, what percentage of people enjoyed or benefited from it? What percentage of people got affected by it? So you are writing this percentage in figure. This way. Now, who was involved? Who spearheaded? Who pioneered this situation? You are to bring this person's name. It may not be a real name. It may not be an existing name. But you are to make your essay to be fact-like. Let it appear like a fact. So you have to bring in the name of people, name of a location, number of people involved, the date it happened, amount of money involved. Figure all of these things in your essay. And don't base your essay solely on spellings. Bring in figures. Please, I hope this is clear. So when you have established your body paragraph, BP means body paragraph. Body paragraph. This is where you now establish all the points you would like to use. This is where all those points will come in. Right? This is where those figures, those location names, quantity, percentage, dates, this is where you now begin to explain them. You are giving details to explain that topic sentence you wrote in or you brought in. Then after that, whatever example you have brought or you wrote down, you now include your example. The example, of course, will be used to buttress your body paragraph. The example is more like driving your points home, giving a more relatable and practical instance, right? So that's what your example should be. And to talk about this example, please do not use EG. Do not make use of EG. This is a no-no. This will drop your mark. Do not make use of, do not say, for example. This shouldn't come in. This is very common. I also want you to show off more advanced expressions. We talked about that earlier, right? So this guy is quite common. Avoid using for example. So when you want to bring in example to your second paragraph, these are ways to bring in the examples.
We can't see that part of the board clearly.
Okay, I'm going to read. Now, these are simple ways to bring in example rather than saying for example or e.g. So the first way of bringing example is one good instance to support my point. One good instance to support my point is, then you begin to drop that example. That's the first way to launch example. Another way to launch example would be to further buttress my point. To further buttress my point. That's a way of bringing example. To further buttress my point. Then another way to bring example is to elucidate further. To elucidate further. That's a way of saying for example. It's an advanced way of saying for example. Right? Is it clear?
Yes.
All right. Now you do not necessarily need to say for instance. Even though for instance can fly, but it is still a little bit common. A lot of people could easily say for instance. So IELTS says we want something a little more advanced. Right? So these are templates that you can use to cite or launch your example. Then after bringing in your example, your paragraph 2 is completed. Now for paragraph 3, you pick up the second point you drafted on your question paper as rough work. The second point. So that second point would become your topic sentence for paragraph 3. Right? So once you have dropped the topic sentence, that's the second point, from the question paper onto your answer sheet, you can put your full stop or you put your colon. So any of these you choose to use is fine. Then after that, you now begin to elaborate on that point. Begin to give details, explain in details what that point is all about. And that would constitute the body paragraph. So that would constitute the body paragraph. Then after the body paragraph, you bring in another example. Bring in an example to buttress that particular point. Right? So at that point, once you're done bringing in the topic sentence, expatiating on it or elaborating on it in details or with lots of facts-like information, then you add up or bring in an example to support the body paragraph. So at that point, your paragraph 3 is completed. Then the fourth paragraph. Fourth paragraph, you're talking about conclusion. You need to wrap up your essay. You need to conclude your essay. So how do we do that? The fourth paragraph, which is a conclusion, has different templates. Has different templates to concluding an essay. So we have the likes of okay, so right here on the board, we have different templates that can be used to conclude an essay. All right, the first template right here is, if you want to conclude your essay, you can choose to use either summarily or conclusively. You can begin your first paragraph by using the sequencer summarily or conclusively. So if you are using summarily or conclusively, what you are meant to do is you must give the synopsis. You must give the synopsis of these topic sentences you discussed in paragraphs 2 and 3. You must, in a way, try to do a recap. So you are summarizing the topics discussed in paragraphs 2 and 3. That's when you are using summarily or conclusively. So you give a synopsis of those topics. Then after that, you bring in that opinion you must have written in paragraph 1. That view, that suggestion, that's whatever thing you must have established in your paragraph 1 as your stance, you are meant to bring it down to your paragraph 4. That's why if you look at the formula, there is stance in paragraph 1, there is stance in paragraph 4. So whatever you must have written, that's why I said when we started this, I told us that you must clearly write your opinion in paragraph 1. You must clearly establish your view or suggestion in paragraph 1. Then in paragraph 4, you are bringing it down as well. But you don't bring it down word for word. Bring it down in a rephrased way. Bring it down in a paraphrased manner. Okay? So after you have given the summary of the topics or points you have discussed in paragraphs 2 and 3, you then bring down your opinion. And at that point, that is the end of your essay. Now, if you don't want to use summarily or conclusively, that warrants you to start talking about the topics you have discussed in paragraphs 2 and 3. If you don't want to do all of that, you simply say, in light of the above. In light of the above. What does this mean? When you choose to say in light of the above, you do not need to summarize these topics, these points anymore. You don't do that. You don't need to do that. So if you simply write, in light of the above, comma, you now go straight to your opinion. You bring down that stance in a paraphrased way. And that's the end of your essay. Do we understand this?
No, can you explain that again, please?
In light of the above, right?
Yes, please.
In light of the above, when you want to conclude your essay using in light of the above, you do not need to talk about the topics that you have discussed in paragraphs 2 and 3 anymore. If you choose to say in light of the above, all you need to do is simply bring down that opinion or that view or that suggestion you wrote in paragraph 1, bring it down to that paragraph 4 after writing in light of the above. Do you understand this?
Yes, please.
But when you're bringing down your stance, remember I said you don't copy it verbatim, right? You need to summarize it. Okay? So that's the way to go. That's how, but then you must understand something. For you to use in light of the above, you know it's very straightforward, right? It doesn't take you through, it doesn't put you through the stress of writing all of those topics anymore. For you to make use of in light of the above, you must have confirmed that what you have written between paragraphs 1, 2, 3, you must have confirmed that the word there are up to maybe 240 or 250. So once you have seen that your words are quite close to what you need, then of course you don't want to overflog your essay anymore. So you just go straight and end your essay very quickly. That's when you say in light of the above. Right? But if you have checked what you've written from paragraph 1 to paragraph 3, and you noticed that it's not up to 200 words, or it's not more than 210, please use summarily or conclusively. It will help you to buy more words. By the time you begin to summarize those points, you are building more words. And after that, you then bring in the opinion. You are also adding more words. So definitely you'll be able to hit up to 250 words. Please, do you understand this? Daisy, do you understand that?
Yes, I did.
All right, so this is how the essay should go, and this is where we shall take a break for today. From tomorrow, I will take you through the processes of writing your essay from paraphrasing up to the other parts by God's grace. Right? If you have any question, please feel free and drop it at the comment section of the YouTube channel of this video. Pardon me. So simply drop whatever thing you have as question to ask, and I will personally respond to them. Alright, so thank you so much for today. We shall continue tomorrow. Bessie, please, you have any question?
For this class, not at the moment.
Alright, so I will respond to your queries later today and forward the videos as you have requested.
Thank you.
Alright, bye. So everyone, see you tomorrow by God's grace. Same time. Thank you so much.